Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at welcome pong muli sa isa na namang edisyon ng Kalingang Katribo Legal Diaries. Ako po si Elmer Navarro Manuel at ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon medyo malalim, masalimuot at maraming debate tungkol sa same-sex marriage. Alright? Para magpaliwanag sa atin kung paano nga ba ang mga provision itong same-sex marriage. Kasama natin ang Associate Lawyer ng Aranas Cruz, Araneta Parker, and Faustino Law Offices na si Attorney Alfred Campagnano. Attorney, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon, Sir Elmer. Good afternoon po sa mga nanonood.
Alright, Attorney, ito na. Nung last week, pinag-uusapan natin, hiwala yan. Ngayon naman, kasalan naman ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. Pero, same-sex, ibig sabihin, parehong lalaki, parehong babae, magpapakasal. Attorney, siguro naman, parang wala pa tayong ganitong klaseng batas dito sa atin para payagan tong same-sex marriage, ano?
Actually, yeah, wala pa talaga wala pang law. So, kung titignan mo talaga, under the family code, sinasabi nga that marriage is a special contract between a man and a woman for purposes of conjugal and family life. So, wala pa tayong laws on same-sex marriage.
Alright. Pero, Attorney, ano ba talaga tong same-sex marriage na to? Bukod dun sa parang literal na meaning na parehong babae o parehong lalaki ang magpapakasal, may malalim pa bang kahulugan tong same-sex marriage na to?
Well, actually wala namang malalim na kahulugan, Sir Elmer. Pero more on the fact lang na gusto ko lang clarify na pag sinabi mong same-sex marriage, we're by the definition, makikita mo dito ang word na ginamit is same sex, not same gender. So, kung titignan mo dito, so para lang to have an understanding pa, is pag sinabi mo same-sex, di ba sex is a biological concept. So, yan yung tinutukoy mo, yung ano yung biological makeup mo, kung lalaki ba or babae ka. So, yun yung tinitingnan natin sa concept of same-sex marriage. So, anyone can easily understand na pag sinabi mo same-sex marriage, then makikita mo, tulad na nagpa-flash sa screen, is it's a union between between two men or between two women. Pero, kung titignan mo siya sa definition, we're talking about sex, then in the Philippine context, even if maka-classify siya as same-sex marriage, if, for example, nagpa-sex change ka. So, for example, from a man, nagpa-transition ka to a woman, and vice versa. So, in that definition, papasok siya under the law, papasok yan sa concept pa din ng same-sex marriage. So, even yung mga transsexuals, so meaning a trans man or a trans woman marrying the opposite sex, so to speak, hindi siya allowed here in the Philippines. In fact, most law students, if there are any law students or lawyers who are also watching this, is alam nila yung case ni Silverio versus Republic. That's actually a very old case. Pero in that case, nagkaroon lang ng petition, not about marriage, pero it's about, merong isang, if I recall correctly, merong si Silverio, basically nag-transition siya into a woman. So nag-petition siya to have her, well, to be correct lang, nag-petition siya to have his birth certificate be changed and reflect na female na instead of male. So dito clarify ng Supreme Court that sex here is a biological concept. So in that regard, hindi pinayagan yung petition to change yung information
Mhm.
from a man to a woman. And consequently, pag nagpakasal si Silverio, kahit fully transition na siya into a woman,
Mhm.
pag nagpakasal siya sa lalaki, that will still be considered a same-sex marriage.
Okay.
And under our laws, that is illegal.
So, ibig sabihin pala, kahit na magpapalit ka ng kasarian, magpapalit ka ng pangalan, yan, na from babae to lalaki or vice versa, kapag sa batas na, nasa birth certificate mo pa rin kung ano yung sex mo nung pinanganak ka. Kung babae ka man o lalaki. Alright. Attorneys, nabanggit na natin kanina, di ba, na wala pang ang batas. Pero meron bang mga nagsusulong nitong same-sex marriage sa mga lawmakers natin?
Well, I did a quick search, but I wasn't able to find an actual bill
Okay.
that forwards same-sex marriage. But do correct me, if I'm wrong. So, actually, wala pa talagang nagsusulong ng same-sex marriage. The closest bill that may be akin to the issue of same-sex marriage would be yung House Bill, kasi nga aking kodigo, House Bill 03179. Ito yung finorward ni Edkel or Edsel Lagman.
Okay.
Pero ang pinag-uusapan lang na dito kasi is the property regimes that govern same-sex couples. Actually, in the bill, clarify pa niya he stated categorically na this is not a same-sex marriage. Parang yan. Pero, kung tutuusin, kung titignan mo yung property relations na ina-advocate niya, well, you can simply say na it's basically same-sex marriage. So that's the closest legislation
Okay.
that's being forwarded now. Pero I think all of us are aware na there is also yung petition ni Attorney Falsis, with the Supreme Court trying to contest the legality of the actions of the civil registry kasi di ba sa civil registry nag-issue sila ng marriage license and they're only issuing the same to a man and a woman. So yan yung parang kine-question niya yung kanyang constitutionality along those lines. So, however, unfortunately, it died a procedural death kasi hindi nag-rule on the merits ang Supreme Court as to kung legal ba ang ginagawa ng civil registry, and there wasn't even a discussion on same-sex marriage kasi nagkaroon ng technical ground to dismiss the case, which is wala siyang standing. As explained by the court, wala siyang standing to have filed the case because he never filed for a marriage license in the first place.
Okay. Alright, attorney, ito, yung, di ba meron na rin tayong tinatawag na civil union dito sa Pilipinas or siguro naman na payagan na yung ganun. Ano ang kaibahan ng civil union sa same-sex marriage, attorney?
Actually, this is a misconception, Kasi marriage itself is a civil union.
Okay.
So, wala talagang pagkakaiba. Especially in the context of the Philippines. Kasi, kung titignan mo sa Pilipinas, hindi naman tayo federal state. So, parang makikita mo niya na as far as marital life is concerned, that's an issue that's vested to the national government and not to your local government units. So, parang unlike in certain jurisdictions that there really is a difference between a civil union and a marriage. Na in certain jurisdictions, pag sinabi mong civil union siya, that's only legit or that's only recognized as far as that specific state is concerned. Pero, kaya siya sinasabi lang na civil union. Pero, kung titignan mo, marriage siya, pag binabansagan mo ng marriage in those jurisdictions, in the United States or ang labas niyan, kahit nagpakasal ka sa isang state, wala silang choice but to recognize it elsewhere. That's the concept of marriage, as opposed to civil union. Pero kasi sa Pilipinas, kaya ako sinasabi na walang difference, Kasi here, hindi talaga natin mararamdaman ang difference. Kasi kapag nagkaroon ka ng civil union, you're basically granted the same obligations, same the obligations and rights to each other, and the same rights and obligations as to your property regimes or your property relations. So wala talagang difference between civil
Civil.
union and marriages, at least in the context of Philippine law.
Alright. Okay, attorney, ito, syempre, sa ibang bansa, medyo meron ng mga ganito, no, yung same-sex marriage. Paano kung merong dalawang Pinoy o Pinay na sumailalim sa same-sex marriage sa ibang bansa? Kikilalanin ba yung kasal nila pagbalik nila rito sa Pilipinas?
Unfortunately, Sir Emil, hindi.
Mhm.
Kasi ang magiging reasoning lagi dyan ng courts natin, or even, actually, magiging reasoning dito dyan, it's really against public policy.
Okay.
So, actually, it's a good thing na na-mention mo yan, kasi this is where I want to introduce lang yung idea na the people who intends to advocate for same-sex marriage must address or kailangan nilang sagutin yung issue na kung bakit there is a valid classification
Mhm.
na pinapayagan lang ang heterosexual couples to actually marry. So, yun yung kinakailangan nilang i-address. So, in that regard, kailangan nilang tingnan ano ba ang purpose ng marriage, ano ba ang purpose ng being allowed to, purpose of the marriage, what are the rights that comes with being a couple or a married couple as opposed to an ordinary partnership, which is right now, yan lang ang magiging recognition niyan sa Pilipinas.
Mhm.
So going back dun sa issue din again is kahit nagpakasal sila sa ibang bansa, 'di ba? Parang ang kakalabasan pa din yan, hindi yan i-recognize because it's contrary to our public policy, which is the public policy states that it's a special contract between a man and a woman. Ngayon, a good question there, Sir Elmer, is would it be different if, for example, ang pinakasalan niya foreigner?
Okay.
And remember, I think in one of our segments, nabanggit ko na before na when it comes to laws that applies, sinusundan natin yung national law ng tao.
Law.
So pag foreigner, sundan natin, i-recognize natin yung batas ng foreigner na yan. Tama? If you'd recall that, sir. But here, since it's contrary to public policy, kahit na yan ay legal sa ibang bansa, hindi yan i-recognize dito sa Pilipinas. So, kung may mga properties or ari-arian man kayo dito, it will not be governed by co-ownership in the concept under the family law, but it will be governed by ordinary civil code on partnership, on co-ownership.
Okay. So, kumbaga, parang attorney, kung tama ako, walang conjugal property pagdating dito.
Wala. Walang ganong property. As in, para lang kayong dormmates. Ganun lang kakalabasan ng treatment ng properties dyan.
Parang nagtayo lang kayo ng bahay, bumili kayo ng furniture, tapos, eto sa akin to, ito kanya to.
Happy-happy na yan.
Alright. Okay, attorney, yung mga nagpa-civil union sa ibang bansa or nagpa-same-sex marriage sa ibang bansa, may mga karapatan ba tong mga ganitong klaseng sumailalim sa ganitong same-sex marriage? May mga karapatan ba sila rito pagdating sa bansa natin?
Well, kung ang context is karapatan as to the recognition again, it falls within the same idea ng marriage kanina. So, wala technically silang rights and they are not viewed as partners.
Okay.
No, even if it's a civil union outside of the country. Because again, it will fall... First, there is no such thing as a civil union. Civil union as conceptualized there abroad, here in the Philippines. So it's actually marriage. Yan yung klase ng civil union na tinitignan natin. Tapos, kung titignan natin ulit, is hindi yan re-recognize sa Pilipinas kasi it's contrary to public policy. Supposedly, these unions, marital unions, should be between a man and a woman.
Yun, doon talaga bumabalik lahat yung yung batas na yung marriage or yung union para lang sa isang babae at sa isang lalaki. Hindi pwedeng parehong lalaki o parehong babae. Alright, attorney, medyo lumalalim na itong usapan natin pero magbe-break muna tayo. Huwag po kayong aalis at babalik pong muli ang Kalingang Katribo Legal Diaries.
Iba ng panahon, dami ng bago ngayon. Pati ang mundo natin, well, nagbago na rin. Buti ang bayan, bigger, better na. You can buy it sa centers, pati sa mga parties, may online pa at app. You can buy it with your fingers, still don't remittance and more. Online shopping, you can buy it all. Di magpadala, you can buy it all. Anumang pera transaction, you can buy it all. Sabayan ang pagbabago ng mundo for all your pera transactions, all new Bayad.
Montero Sport. Elevate your journey.
Drive your ambition. Mitsubishi Motors.
Babalik po muli ang Kalingang Katribo Legal Diaries at syempre kasama pa rin natin si Attorney Alfred Campagnano para sa usapan natin ngayon sa diskusyon ng same-sex marriage. Alright, Attorney, eto, napag-usapan na natin ito nung nakaraan, itong SOGI bill o itong equality bill. Meron bang provision dun sa SOGI bill na yun na pwedeng isingit itong same-sex marriage?
I was going over yung provisions nung House Bill. And to me, I'm not seeing any provisions na kung saan pwedeng maisingit ang same-sex marriage as a union. But to the LGBT community, I don't think that they should be discouraged, and it's still worth celebrating should this law be passed.
Okay.
Kasi remember, it's the fight for equality parang follows a trend, no? Na kung saan you want to normalize the existence of the LGBTQ community, and you want to ensure na you're easing up the Filipino people that discriminatory practices in whatever form. In this case, through the SOGI bill, sinasabi na bawal ang discriminatory practices at work, at school, bawal as much as possible, you shouldn't propagate an image of the stereotypical LGBTQ. So, yan yung pina-forward ng SOGI bill. So, this is worth celebrating because since we're penalizing these kinds of actions or these kinds of discriminatory behavior, then ang tendency niyan is sooner or later, or hopefully, diba, sooner, the Filipino people or the general public would
magko-conform. Ayan,
diba,
accept,
accept na there shouldn't really be any discrimination. And hopefully, they will see that prohibiting same-sex couples to marry each other may be considered as discriminatory, that should be changed here in the Philippines.
Okay. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan mag-kick off muna tayo dito sa SOGI bill o sa equality bill bago natin isulong tong mga iba pa. Alright, attorney, ito, theoretical question, kung sakaling matuloy ang same-sex marriage dito sa Pilipinas, kaninong apelyido yung gagamitin? Parehong lalaki, parehong babae, sino ba ano ba magiging basehan nito? Kailangan mas mayaman ba yung mapangasawa mo bago mo magamit yung apelyido?
I think, sir, sa mga tao that has similar questions to that, to me, the simple answer there is it really depends on how you will implement the law, no? Na kung saan, how would you craft the legalization of same-sex marriage as to who's on that issue, na kung sinong apelyido ang susundin. Pero, sir, to be clear, I think on a legal standpoint, that's an immaterial. It's really a non-issue.
Mhm.
Kasi even for heterosexual couples right now who are married, it has been clarified
Mhm.
that the wife has an option to either retain her maiden name,
Mhm.
to adopt completely the husband's name, or to hyphenate her her surname
Mhm.
with that of the surname of the husband. So similarly, as nung na-mention din natin in one of our segments about illegitimate and legitimate children,
Mhm.
legitimate and illegitimate children has an option. If illegitimate child ka, you have an option to, if recognized ka by the father and
Mhm.
you're an illegitimate child, you have an option whether you want to use
The surname of the father or
surname
not.
of your father or you want to retain the surname of your mom.
Mhm.
So, ganun din sa legitimate children.
Okay.
Now, sa illegitimate children may have an option to do so as well.
Mm.
So, kaya siya, in the context of same-sex unions, then I think it's no longer much of an issue.
Mhm.
Kasi, again, similar policies can be adopted. Na it's really up to the couples to decide whose surname will be adopted if they will adopt a
Mhm.
common surname
Okay.
or they will retain their own surnames or mag-hyphenate sila kung yun ang trip nila.
Mhm.
So, it's really, really depends upon the law. But to me, it's not a cause for concern,
Mhm.
especially for the fight for LGBTQ rights
Mhm.
or same-sex marriage.
Alright. Tsaka, attorney, syempre, lalo na kung magkapareho kayo ng apelyido, di wala na kayong problema talaga.
Pwede.
Kung gusto mo hyphenated, di Reyes ka lang, o yung mga ganun. Alright, ito, attorney, ito, medyo nangyayari na rin kasi ito sa atin, dito sa Pilipinas, di ba? Pero, parang under the radar lang, kumbaga, o low profile lang. Meron na talagang mga nagsasamang pareho ng gender or pareho ng sex Yan. May mga kilala na akong ganoon, may mga tropa akong ganoon. Pagdating ba sa mga karapatan, attorney, kunwari, mag-aampon sila or kunwari yung na-hospital yung isa tapos pwede ka bang nandun ka sa ospital o wala kang karapatan na ganun?
Actually, sir, yan yung isa sa, that's one of the things that married couples
Mhm.
have an advantage as compared to same-sex couples na nag-living lang together.
Mhm.
In fact, that's one of if you're going to analyze yung mga demands na LGBTQ community as to marital relations, it's really about recognizing the relationship that they have
Mhm.
with each other and accepting that relationship as not only a valid but also a legitimate relationship. Iyan naman talaga yung core na pinaglalaban ng LGBTQIA+ when it comes to same-sex marriage. So, going back dun sa nabanggit mo,
Mhm.
na in the absence of a marital union, na legitimate marital union, kung titignan mo, nag-live-in sila together for more than 30 years. For example, si A and si B.
Mhm.
And then ang nangyari is na-hospitalize si A.
Okay.
And I think we are not na-hospitalize si A. Ngayon si living partner niya supposedly has a say, has a way to dictate na ano ba ang dapat mangyari
Mhm.
or to make consents on behalf of his partner.
Mhm.
Pero that's not allowed
Ayun
in
nga.
the absence of a marital union.
Mm.
So similarly, if for example na incapacitate is heterosexual couples,
Mhm.
no, yung mga normal
Okay.
na couples mo, if na incapacitate, nabaliw or incapacitate or
Nabaldado, yan, mga
Nabaldado.
ganun. Oo.
it's the wife or it's the husband, as the
Mhm.
case may be, who has the right to administer the property. Again, it's not a right
Oo.
given to same-sex couples in the absence of a marital union.
Mhm.
So kung titignan mo yung the underlying theme between what is absent or what is deprived from LGBTs who are refrained from marrying each other as compared to
Traditional na
traditional or your heterosexual couples who are married to each other. It's always about may partner ka that can make the decision for you if you're not or if you cannot do so. Diba? So, and the respect that we give, for example, if kung asawa ko has to decide whether to pull the plug or not, the fact that she has a say in making that decision for me is a recognition of the law that relationship is a healthy relationship or is an acceptable relationship. Pero if it's on the framework or in the lenses of LGBTQIA+, and they cannot make that decision for their partner in the hospital, and in fact they can be treated as strangers to that person despite their healthy relationship for so long. So kung titignan mo, iyan talaga yung mga rights or yung mga parang nakakaligtaan na napag-uusapan when it comes to the fight for same-sex marriage. Kasi the misimpression is they think that current laws will serve their interest. Kasi kung may property regimes ka, same-sex couples contribute properties together, wala namang community property, pero mag-govern yan by the laws on co-ownership under the civil code. So parang kung isipin mo, na-address na yung concern nila. But again, kung titignan mo, there really are certain nuances in the law na kung saan when it translates kapag nag-cooperate na siya sa masses or to the Filipino people, na makikita mo na these are the instances na kung saan they should have been protected by marriage as a union if it had been recognized or extended to them.
Alright. Okay, attorney, ito, siguro naman may mga ano pa rin dito sa debate tungkol sa same-sex marriage, ano? Ano ba yung mga pros and cons nitong same-sex marriage na to? Kunwari, pareho kayong babae, pwede kayo sabay maligo. Sa bagay, lahat naman pwede sabay maligo, yung mga ganun.
Ayan, di ba? So, in that question, pag titignan mo, when you analyze it sa pros and cons, then that question basically is asking under whose lens. So, is it advantageous or disadvantageous to whom? So, personally, again, I don't speak on behalf of the firm as to this position of mine already, but if you're going to analyze it, I'm not seeing any cons at all if you legalize same-sex marriage.
Ayos.
Kasi if I'm going to look at it at the lens of a heterosexual couple, pag pinayagan mo naman magkaroon ng same-sex union or same-sex marriage, it's not as if we're abolishing the law on heterosexual marriages. If ang issue mo naman is on the upbringing of the child, no, because that's one of the why upbringing of the child, because that is one of the reasons why marriage is a social institution as stated in the family code, is because of family life. But I don't think that the traditional family is the only family that can at least ensure the well-being of a child and the development of that child. In fact, there are others. There are more than a lot of us already, for example, are in a setup that's not exactly traditional. Now, some were raised by a single dad, some were raised by a single mom, some were raised not by their parents at all, but their grandparents. Some were raised by their uncles or their aunts. So, to me, when it comes to the well-being, wala naman ako nakikita if you put it in the context of same-sex couples. If pinayagan ng same-sex marriage, will be able to establish a life, a family life, so a family life by being allowed to adopt. That such modern families, for example, are nevertheless not only are legit, but have also been proven to establish and ensure the well-being of a child. So I'm not seeing really the con
Okay.
into the legalization of same-sex marriage, but the real challenge here is there will be some values na mababangga.
Ayan, oo, tama
And it's
yun.
really, it's either how you address these values na mababangga, values of these people na mababangga,
Yung mga
and
ano,
how they were indoctrinated.
Oo, yan, tama yun. Kasi yung talaga ang ano natin yung mga talagang sarado Katoliko, kung ano lang talaga yung
Pero
tradisyon.
yun nga kung sarado Katoliko, even the Pope himself,
Oh, yun,
diba?
tama.
Recognize that forwarded that he may be against it. Sabi niya, paraphrasing of course, no? He may be against it, but it does not necessarily mean na he's forbidding it. Diba?
Tama.
Kasi, sabi nga niya, they're also children of God.
Ayun,
And
tama.
they deserve a family as well.
Alright.
Yan ang sinabi niya. Those were his words. So, it's really
Humanity issue, kumbaga.
not a legal issue here anymore. Because to me, I'm not seeing any legal challenges.
Ayan, alright.
It's really about, paniniwala na lang how we have been, indoctrinated that this is
Tama.
a marriage and this is a family. And I think that's the biggest challenge of all. You need to
Alright.
change that if you want same-sex marriage to happen.
Okay, alright. Ayan, malinaw po. So, magbabalik muna tayo. Magbe-break lang tayo, attorney, saglit. Huwag po kayong aalis at babalik po muli ang Kalingang Katribo Legal Diaries.
Good morning, sir. How may I help you?
Bakit kailangan ko pang pumunta sa bangko?
Oo nga naman, sir. Ba't kailangan pong pumunta sa bangko?
Why not get a UB app so you can do all these without going to the bank? Bank the way you live. Union Bank.
Nagbabalik pong muli ang Kalingang Katribo Legal Diaries at syempre kasama pa rin natin si Attorney Alfred Campagnano. Alright, Attorney, eto na yung segment natin ng Tribuno. Alright, sabi dito, according to research and studies of several European economists, natuklasan nila na ang mga elementary and secondary school students na pinalaki ng same-sex couples ay mas mataas ang mga test scores na nakukuha at mas malaki ang possibility daw na gagraduate ng high school kaysa sa mga students na pinalaki ng traditional couples. Ayan. Okay, so attorney, ito medyo
That proves my point.
Oo, 'di ba?
Na,
Hindi hadlang yung pagiging parehong gender nyo or parehong sex nyo para magpalaki ng tao o magpalaki ng bata, parang gano'n.
Exactly. So child development isn't really an issue. And let's get the elephant out of the room. Some people have this belief na if they're raised by same-sex couples, baka ganun din ang kakalabasan mo. First, there's no proof of that.
Tama.
Kasi nga, di ba, alam naman natin na biological na nga daw. That's the recent studies on gender orientation and sexual orientation, and gender. Now that's really that's a biological thing, not a matter of upbringing. And second, even if it's true na nagiging gano'n ng act na magiging LGBT rin sila by association, then the next question that you have to ask is there anything wrong with that? Right? And if you say that there's anything wrong with that, then you have to take a good look in the mirror. You're most likely a sexist.
Oo, tama. Mukhang nandun ka pa sa level na hindi ka pa nakakaalis sa box. Yan. Kasi parang dapat thinking out of the box ka na ngayong mga panahon na to para
Exactly.
makuha mo lahat yan. Alright, attorney, maraming salamat po sa oras na inilaan nyo sa amin ngayon tungkol sa diskusyon natin sa same-sex marriage. Any parting shots, attorney?
Again, tulad na sabi ko sa Soggy Bill na segment last time, na for us who have friends who belong to the LGBT plus community, if you really respect and love them as colleagues, as friends, I should not see any reason why you should not support their cause, whether same-sex marriage or even in the Soggy Bill. Because if you've noticed, the fight for their rights is basically equality. And if you don't treat them as equals, then
magkakaproblema tayo dyan. Diyan tayo magkakaproblema. Alright, attorney, maraming salamat sa oras na binigay mo sa amin. At sa mga nanonood po, maraming salamat sa pagtangkilik sa Kalingang Katribo Legal Diaries. Muli po, ako si Elmer Navarro Manuel at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.